Welcome back to the library, dear wanderers. Today we're heading back to Library Wing 1, the Hidden Nest, back to the first Oak's shelf, where we'll pick up the first work we see. This one was brought to the library by Reasonably Psychotic. Now without further ado, the fading sky above. The sky faded to black. No stars, no moon. He couldn't tell if it was even the sky anymore. The water was taking him away from a place that didn't exist anymore. The gash in his body disappeared. He propped himself up in the water. Black stretched eternally below him and around him. He had been murdered out of greed. He wasn't angry. I should be. He spun in the water. This isn't the afterlife. Why is this not the afterlife? He thought no more of the question. What happened again? Oh, yeah, I was killed. Before that, though, something about singing? Nobody was around. He wouldn't care if they were. The sun shined bright above the blue sea. The sun shined bright, and the blue sea split. The water made no sound as it flowed. Even his splash is silent, except for the words leaving him. The water was lonely, and so the island split. He giggled, and he laughed, and he didn't stop laughing. There was no reason to it. This place was beyond reason, just a river of euphoria stretching into darkness. Then he saw it before him, the golden light of the sun before him, shining down to the biggest tree he had ever seen. The sky became a lighter shade of blue as he was pulled closer. It's beautiful. The river shifted, taking him in another direction. The euphoria faded, anger returned. What? No. As hard as he tried to paddle, it did no use. Why? Why take me back? Rocks came into view as he looked behind himself. Something made him stop the struggle. Someone was peering back at him. Like Treetop himself, he had the look of one from the Sun Province. He held out a stick. Treetop felt sand under his stem. The movement of the water stopped. He hopped forward, touching the stick. All at once, 100 shadows appeared behind the figure. They were different. The first. Far away, his own path. Under ancient banners they gather. The stick yanked hard. The figure in the shadows disappeared. The stick crumpled to dust as Treetop fell on the rocks. Getting up, he looked back to the river. Something was floating in it. Dust. He saw his old colleague using his arms to paddle towards the tree in the distance. The river faded, and so did the afterlife. All that remained was a glowing light in the opposite direction. He hopped towards it. The river was long behind him, if it even existed anymore. In front of him was a coffin, like the ones they buried kings in. But this was different, larger, older, white and glowing. He hopped inside and laid down. Treetop jolted upwards to the crumbling ceiling above him. Squirming around, he felt pain where Sprout had stabbed him, but he knew it was healed. He raised his body up. In front of him, the figure from the shore, covered in scars and strapped to him multiple odd tools and bits of equipment. Do not fear. My name is Scout. A wonderful work, though almost certainly part of a larger one. Hopefully, I did it justice, and we'll see what the rest are like when we get to them. But for now, we should move on to the next one. Smelling of salt air, this one comes from Zebby Fresh. Now, without further ado, an ode to Babashe. The sea being massive, It's mighty uncommon for inexperienced pirates to lose their grip on direction. By direction, I'm nattering about finding your way. That be the easy part. Every pirate knows to follow the stars. Why be nattering about be the direction of your heart? Direction of what we find most important to us. Let us get down to the subject at hand. I'm sure ye ain't here to hear me battling about destiny, determination, desire. No, the captain like that. Ye here 'cause of the title o' me tale, ain't ye? Quite an enticing hook, isn't it? Let's just say I was quite the fisherman back in my day. Enough joking around. It's time to get serious. I know to Babashe, except it really isn't much o' an ode, but more a bone-rattling tale o' a young lad grasped within the clutches o' a wench's love. Except we aren't nattering about a wench, but a fiery lassie seductress from within the gates o' Davy Jones's locker. But the love 'twas real, no doubt. Our tale begins on a fateful night on the Arabian Sea. Back in those days, I was but only a deckhand. Me work was simple, scrubbing the canteen floors and loading barrels. I reckon I was pretty good at it, but I digress. Well, the captain of the ship, I know his name 'twas Roguefoot, was in search o' a loot in these waters. See, Captain Roguefoot had heard tales as a lad 'bout a fountain o' gold. In fact, everyone had heard tales about the fountain, but damn Roguefoot was the only one to believe it to be true. Me old captain was an idiot, but then again, so was I. I must have been 14 or 15 when we first set off on the Great Arabian Sea. I remember that day like 'twas yesterday. The sky was green, as if ye were standing under a great banya tree. However, we paid no mind in dropping the sails. The other deckhands told me green clouds meant that a tornado was nigh, but they assured me 'twas fine. Tornadoes don't blow out in the sea, they told me. Then it started to rain, and fuck all, 'twas like standing under a waterfall. It stormed for what seemed like days. What's worse be that we hadn't seen the sun in all that time. Just their fucking green clouds and rain so thick you cannot see 5 feet in front of you. In the midst of all that action, after snapping to. Then, in what seemed like a miracle at first, the storm nigh on immediately cleared up. But this was no miracle but a curse. Nah. Only had the rain stopped, but the wind too. The sea was as calm as a midsummer's day, and we weren't moving a fucking inch. We were stuck. I helped lift the fallen masts with a few of the deckhands. I remember crying. I hadn't known these 2 lads, but that damn mast knocked the fucking guts out of them. At least they went out smartly. Nobody could have survived that. Captain Roguefoot said a few words and then ordered that we throw the 2 lads overboard. I wanted to refuse, they deserved better. But I understood. Sickness be a fate worse than death out on the sea. That night I had a dream. I was standing up to my knees in a body of seemingly endless water. It felt like I was walking for miles till I saw a figure in the distance. 'Twas a lassie with beautiful red hair. As I approached her, I noticed that she had no hair, but hairs of fire and ember. She called out to me, "Do not be afraid. I be Babashe, Queen of Flame." Her voice was as beautiful as spring and her eyes demanding and seductive. As she embraced me, the water turned to blood and I could hear the screams of me crewmates. 'Twas horrible. I screamed for it to stop and she squeezed me tight and tight and I rose. 3 days. 3 fucking days. We had seen no change in wind nor a single wave in the sea. We hadn't been prepared for a long trip and the supplies were dwindling. Even worse, the crew were beginning to grow restless. I heard Natter scuttle in the captain. Butt up in his shillings doing jack all, one said. Another saw the captain sneak a crate of grub in there. I hadn't known what to believe. At grub, we were served half of what we normally got. This further angered the crew. One of the deckhands jumped up and knocked the lights out of one of the cooks and began grabbing what grub he could. Chaos ensued. There was nothing the high-ups could do to stop the angry horde of starving crewmates. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there and ate my stew, shivering. I didn't want to die. Another couple days of this and we would have all been dead. At this point, I nigh unenvied those 2 dead lads. They would have had to live with what was to come. In the midst of the fight for grub, the door burst down. 'Twas Captain Roguefoot. By Christ, we wouldn't have recognized him if he hadn't had his hat on. He was horribly burned from head to toe. His face was boiled to a prune. Suddenly the crew stopped in their tracks. 'Twas I alone who approached the captain. He was still breathing. Before I could ask who had done this to him, the ship was suddenly caught ablaze. Me and the other deckhands climbed through the doors and into the deck. Filled buckets of water with hopes of putting out the fire, but whatever it was, we tried. The fire stood raging. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw what seemed to be a flaming tornado off the starboard bow. The crew ran to the edge of the ship and went out screaming. Damned sky turned red and many a man jumped overboard. The tornado just ripped through our deck. The crew lay horrified. There be naught they could do. The tornado then appeared above the ship like a great flaming angel and began to descend upon the deck. Countless deckhands were caught up into fiery deaths, screaming and hollering like they were boiling like the stew for grub. But for some reason I was not affected by the pool and heat of the tornado. I could hear me mates saying their funeral prayers for they were ripped apart. Then before me the tornado manifested into some lassie. 'Twas the Babashe. She was singing. By Christ, 'twas beautiful. She looked exactly like she did in me dream, and I thought she was gorgeous. I knew something was terribly wrong. I mean, me fellow deckhands had been burnt alive, but I was entranced nonetheless. Again, she told me, "Do not be afraid. I be Babashe, Queen of Flame." I stood up whence I had fallen. "Oh, Babashe, I be not afraid," I told her. She came forth to embrace me. She did. The rest of the crew melted away, screaming as they went. The blood filled the sea. For a moment, I thought I was in fucking hell. It troubled me somewhat, but the seductress had me in her grasp. "I reckon I'm in love," I said to her. She grinned a big grin and kissed me. I hurt, but felt most right. 'Twas at this moment I had found me true love. Like magic, the flames on the ship were put out. "What was all that mess for?" I asked her. "Killing those scallywags like that." After a few minutes of silence, Babashe replied, "You were the only one who could have saved me." I was not sure what she meant at the time. But then, like magic, the torn planks and bolts were floating about. It wasn't long till the ship was completely fixed and ready for sailing. We had planned to sail away together, but all good things must end. Near the edge of the calm spot, Babashe had grown worried. "Goodbye, me love," she told me. I was confused, but this had been the last words I heard out of her. Just as we sailed up o'er the waves, Babashe melted into the sea. Looking back, I understand now why Babashe had chosen me. I was the youngest on the ship. I was the easiest one to fool. If Babashe was the Queen of Flame, then she would have wanted me to be the king. But she had been trapped in that little calm spot on the sea. On those fateful days, oh, so many years ago, a queen had been separated from her king. "Me name be Captain Wolcott, and today I shall sail the sea again. I've gathered myself a crew, and today I be setting out to find me a long-lost love, me precious Babashe. A wench I be strung to by faith. To anyone who reads this, wish me luck. The sky be green today." Yar har fiddle me dee, that pirate accent was terrible, woe be to thee. Now that that's over with, let's move on to the final work today. This one brought to the library by Dr. Everett Mann, and as he has done so often, it looks like he's brought to us part of the Journal of Aphramos' Long Journey. Let's get right into it. 81st turn, 7th year, 22nd cycle, Byrday. From the Journal of Aphramos' Long Journey, Pilgrim, with notes by Alice Tor, scholar of Reeve Library. Byrday, 22nd cycle, 7th year, 81st turn, 17th day in the trees. I am almost entirely female now. I do not think I will grow anymore. My hips are wide enough to pass eggs. My scales are the color of bronze. My insides are no longer feel wrong. Different, but not unsettled as they did. I feel more balanced than I have since I began this journey. I do not know if I will make it home, but I will survive. We came to another river as we walked today. It was wide and moved slowly. There were fish in the water, which we considered catching for our dinner. In the end, we decided it would be better to seek our dinner elsewhere. We didn't want to eat something that lived so close to the bridge nearby. Bridges should not be made from bones. The bones were of all different sizes. Some seemed to come from creatures larger than myself. Others seemed to come from field mice. There were a number of skulls set in it. They formed an arched bridge over the water. Most were solidly connected by some unknown gray material. Others were tied to the bridge by some sort of string or twine and swung in the breeze. And a footnote here. Such bridges were a common sight at the time, as the Powery population boomed before being balanced by resurgence of giants. We did not venture too close. Instead, we swam to the other side. We walked quickly away from the bridge. I do not wish to think about the sort of people who would make such a bridge. I hope we do not meet them. At least we saw a more pleasant sight this afternoon. We were in the sort of forest with little underbrush, but many plants growing in the hollows of the trees. I saw a moving flash of color and saw a bird light on a branch not too far from me. It was beautiful, with blue and green feathers, and a long, colorful tail. Another footnote here. Most likely a male quetzal, probably from the Pharomacris genus. It stared back at me for a moment, and then it was gone. Such a strange forest. You carefully tuck the journal entry away with the rest. One day you'll have a full book of them, but for now, it's time to go. Thank you very much for coming, dear wanderers. It's been an honor reading for you. Good luck out there, and I hope to see you all next time.